right, we're here at the 2025 show at the NRA conference, the National Restaurant Association conference, here with Anthony Zaller joining us in the Harri booth. Anthony, thanks for joining us.
Great, thanks for having me, Keegan. It's awesome.
So we've talked a little bit offline. I mean, one of the big things that operators are always solving for is that crucial turnover of employees and what the retention is, but most notably in the first 90 days, really the first 30 to 60 days, but it's tracked a lot of times in that first 90 days. And they tell us consistently that that has such a big impact. About half of their retention is lost in the first 90 days. And in terms of profitability and productivity, we're always looking to solve for that. But you and I talked about this a little bit last year, and I guess I shouldn't have been shocked, but can you elaborate a little bit of what's that doing on the legal side or the litigation side? What do you see in terms of employees who leave in the first 90 days?
Yeah, no, the stats, it's amazing. If you can get an employee to stay, less likely to sue. If they're leaving within that first 30, 60, 90 days, more likely to sue. The stats are astronomical too.
Okay.
But so you've got the litigation risk, but as we've spoken about in the past, it's not just the litigation risk that's a huge cost, but you've got other costs associated with employee turnover. And that's what Harri helps with, that onboarding and getting the employees engaged early. And I think that's the key thing. The managers have to engage the employees early, communicate with them. And that's why HR has got such a key role. And the technology helps. It's great having that. And we were talking about this with some other people at the show. Technology is great. It's not replacing HR. It's freeing HR up then to do this high touch with the employees and to keep that retention there and reduce your costs and the threat of litigation.
Absolutely. What we hear all the time is they use the technology as a roadmap and a path of here's what the best managers are doing when they talk to their employees and the types of conversations they're having. And so giving them the best practice and copying that from one manager to the other allows them to do the hard part, which is the people conversation that then, this shouldn't surprise any of us, can impact the litigation side, because if they're disgruntled, they're not happy, things didn't happen the way that they should, they're more open to look at, hey, this didn't happen the right way. What are my rights?
Yep. So for Harri, for your perspective, for the technology, what do you guys offer for that for the engagement right off the bat, this first 30, 60, 90 days?
Yeah, so that's a big part of it for us that is integrated in with our time block, or what we call Team Hub. Is the way for the organizations to take it in on the one employee record. And when they go and clock in and out at day 0, welcome to the organization. Here's what you need to know about our restaurant group. Day 4, how's your training going? Day 7, how was your first week?
Automated.
Birthdays, anniversaries. But then weekly, how's the satisfaction? So Above Store can see, is there a certain location that satisfaction has dropped off? Is there a manager who's not doing what needs to be done? And they'll tell you, the newer generations might be awkward, sorry guys, in having one-to-one conversations, but they will reply to technology. If you ask them, they'll tell you what they're thinking. So all we're doing is, this is what the best managers already do it in an automated way, gather their sentiment, and serve it up to leadership. You get above 6 locations, to replicate this across is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And this just gives them best practices at the point of clock in and out.
Awesome. So you're seeing the younger generation using the technology to give that kind of feedback? The engagement is there?
Absolutely. We live in a more and more technical world.
Yeah.
The Gen Z, Gen Alpha very soon, some are starting to hire for, live on their phones. That is part of their world. And so for them to give feedback, they order all the time. They go to Yelp, they live on TikTok, they give feedback, they can buy everything on Amazon and be on Netflix. Why would that be different for where they go to work? They want to see it on their phone. They want to see their schedule. They want to communicate in one place and tell you what they're thinking. If you ask in a way that they're used to doing it, they will tell you.
That's cool.
Yep.
And that's the key thing that I stress. HR is not just about remembering birthdays. You got to get that right.
Yeah.
You got to get it, but like
Yeah.
everybody else is doing that. And if you're not using technology to get that aspect right, you're way behind, because now your HR manager, your VP of HR is remembering dates, remembering this basic stuff, which can become very time consuming, but it's something you got to get right and got to do consistently.
You got to do it consistently, but you've got to deliver it as well where they're going to look at it. Here's the thing, Gen Z doesn't use emails. They use emails because we require them to. And by we, I mean our generation before this, you need an email to create an ID and all these other things. That's all they use it for. They communicate on TikTok and Instagram and other places. So for us, doing it at the time clock, to get paid, you have to clock in and out. So we send messages where they're going to be and where they have to be, and we send that message there, or to their employee app if we need a longer response. Guess what? Now you get, instead of typically if you do an email survey, world class is like 40 to 50% response rate. With Harri doing it at the clock, we have above 90% response rate, because you have to do it if you want to clock in and out, if you want to get paid. And so make it simple, make it easy. Don't ask too much. You can go overboard. You can make them angry if you are always asking. But if you do it in a palatable way, in the flow of work, now we start to see magic happen.
That's great. That's great. And I've heard about those surveys within the workplace. Yeah, it's so hard to get that engagement, but that's a good way to do it. And have the employee feedback. But it's critical. And it's just a best practice to use technology to get the basics right, and then to be better than your competitors on that employee engagement. If you can get your employees to stay just a little longer than your competitor, it's a huge advantage. And just statistically too, you're going to have less employees coming through your environment, less likely to get sued as well.
Exactly. And if they stay a little longer, guess what? They're a little better at their job. And when you're better at something, you feel more fulfilled, and you're more likely to stay just a little bit longer. If you're there a little longer, you've probably got a friend in the workplace. You have a friend in the workplace, you're more likely to stay longer. You stay longer, you've got to know your manager more. All of these things. It's a time game. How do you show them you care? Get them to stay a little longer, make them feel valuable. All the parts we talked about. Feeling valuable will cover a variety of sins, even on the litigation side. That doesn't excuse bad practices. But if they know you're human and you mean well, they're staying longer, you're less likely to get sued, I'm assuming.
And I'm repeating myself. I'm sure everybody's heard this before from me, but they understand too, even if you have to make a difficult decision to let them go, if you've treated them with respect and they understand you're coming from a good place, you're less likely to sue, because they'll be upset with the termination decision. But in their heart of hearts, a day or two later, they'll be like, you know what? I wasn't giving my all to that job. I understand where the company was coming from, and I was treated fairly.
Bingo. So, I agree. I think you nailed it perfectly. So, Anthony, thanks for taking time and giving us your thoughts on short cycle turnover and what that means for litigation as well. So, signing off from NRA. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Keegan.